the most isolated places, where people actually live. Imagine waking up every morning knowing that the nearest city is hundreds of miles away. No traffic, no shopping malls, no crowded streets, sometimes not even a road. For most of us, isolation means living a few hours away from a major city. But around the world, there are communities where isolation is on an entirely different level. These are some of the most isolated places where people actually live. 1. Tristan da Cunha. In the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean sits a tiny volcanic island called Tristan da Cunha. It is often described as one of the most remote inhabited islands on Earth. The island is roughly 1,500 miles from the nearest major landmass, South Africa, and more than 2,000 miles from South America. There is no airport here. Getting to Tristan da Cunha means traveling by ship, and the journey from South Africa can take roughly a week, depending on conditions. Around a few hundred people call this remote island home. Life here is remarkably different from life in a modern city. There's one main settlement, Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. The community has a school, a hospital, a post office, a grocery store, and even a small museum. But everything depends heavily on the outside world. Supplies have to be shipped in, and bad weather can make transportation difficult. The island's volcanic landscape is dramatic, with steep mountains rising behind the settlement. And despite its extreme isolation, the people who live here have created something surprisingly ordinary, a functioning community in the middle of one of the world's largest oceans. 2. Itokortormiit. Greenland. Far to the east of Greenland lies a settlement with a name that is almost as difficult to pronounce as the place is to reach. Itokortormiit is one of Greenland's most isolated communities. Only a few hundred people live here. The settlement is surrounded by enormous mountains, glaciers, and Arctic waters. For much of the year, the surrounding sea is covered with ice. There are no highways connecting Itokortormiit to other towns. People rely on boats, helicopters, and aircraft to travel. During winter, temperatures can become brutally cold, while darkness dominates the landscape for long periods. Yet, people have lived in this region for generations. Hunting and fishing remain important parts of life, and traditional Arctic culture continues to influence the community. From the outside, the settlement can look almost unreal. Colorful houses sit against a landscape of snow-covered mountains with almost nothing else visible for miles. It's a place where nature isn't just something you look at. Nature controls almost every part of daily life. 3. Longyearbyen, Svalbard. At first glance, Longyearbyen looks like a normal small town. There are colorful buildings, roads, shops, restaurants, schools, and even a university research community. But look at its location. Longyearbyen is located on the Svalbard archipelago, deep inside the Arctic Circle. It is one of the world's northernmost settlements with a substantial permanent population. During winter, the sun disappears below the horizon for months. During summer, the opposite happens. The sun can remain above the horizon for weeks, creating the strange phenomenon known as the midnight sun. The surrounding landscape is dominated by glaciers and mountains. Polar bears also live in the region. In fact, venturing outside the settlement requires serious preparation because of the potential danger from wildlife and extreme weather. Despite all this, thousands of people live and work here. The town exists largely because of research, tourism, and the legacy of coal mining. Longyearbyen is a fascinating example of how humans have established a modern community in a place that seems almost completely hostile to permanent settlement. 5. La Rinconada. Peru High in the Peruvian Andes sits a settlement that looks almost impossible. La Rinconada is located at an altitude of more than 5,000 meters above sea level. That's higher than many of the world's tallest mountains base camps. At this altitude, the air contains significantly less oxygen than at sea level. Breathing is harder. The temperatures are harsh, and the surrounding landscape is dominated by barren mountains and glaciers. So why do people live here? Gold. La Rinconada grew around gold mining, attracting workers hoping to find wealth in the mountains. The settlement expanded rapidly despite its extreme environment, but life here is incredibly difficult. Infrastructure is limited and the environment has been heavily affected by mining. The settlement is a powerful reminder that isolation doesn't always mean people are there because they want to escape civilization. Sometimes people travel to the most difficult places imaginable because there's something valuable waiting there. 6. Supai, Arizona. Deep inside the Grand Canyon is a village that feels completely disconnected from modern America. Supai is the home of the Havasupai people. The community is located deep within the Grand Canyon, far below the rim. There are no roads leading directly into the village. Visitors must hike for miles, and supplies can be transported using pack animals or helicopters. The The village is surrounded by towering canyon walls and spectacular blue-green waterfalls. The isolation has helped preserve a unique community and way of life. But isolation also creates challenges, and getting medical care, transporting supplies, and connecting with the outside world can be complicated. Despite this, the Havasupai have maintained a deep connection to the land for generations. Supai isn't simply a remote tourist destination, it is someone's home, and that distinction is important. 7. Palmerston Island, Cook Islands. Imagine living on a tiny island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean where almost everyone is connected to the same family. That's Palmerston Island. The island is part of the Cook Islands and is located hundreds of miles from the nearest major population centers. There is no airport. Getting there requires a boat journey across the Pacific. The community is tiny, and its history is unusual. Almost everyone living on Palmerston is descended from William Marsters, an Englishman who settled on the island in the 19th century. Over generations, his descendants established a close-knit community. The island has limited resources, so residents have traditionally depended heavily on fishing and outside supplies. The surrounding ocean is beautiful, but it also creates a barrier. If something goes wrong, help isn't just around the corner, it may be hundreds of miles away. 8. Villa Las Estrellas, Antarctica. Antarctica is perhaps the last place you'd expect to find ordinary family life, but people actually live there. Villa Las Estrellas is a Chilean settlement located on King George Island near the Antarctic Peninsula. Unlike most Antarctic research stations, it has historically included facilities associated with permanent family life. There have been homes, a school area, a post office, and other basic services. The environment is extraordinary. Ice, snow, freezing temperatures, powerful winds, and months of extreme seasonal darkness dominate the landscape. There are no normal roads connecting the settlement to the rest of the world. Aircraft and ships are essential. Living here requires accepting that you're not just far from a city, you're on an entirely different continent, surrounded by one of the harshest environments on Earth. Yet, for the people who choose to live here, it is home. 9. Alert, Canada Now. Travel even farther north. Alert is located on Ellesmere Island in Canada's Nunavut territory. It is one of the northernmost permanently inhabited places on Earth. The settlement is located only a few hundred miles from the North Pole. There isn't a traditional civilian town here. Instead, Alert primarily supports Canadian military and scientific operations. But personnel live there for extended periods, making it one of the most remote human outposts on the planet. The environment is extreme. During winter, the sun disappears for months. Temperatures can fall far below freezing. During summer, the sun doesn't set for weeks. There are no nearby cities, no convenient highway, no quick trip to the supermarket. Everything has to be carefully planned and transported. Alert shows just how far humans have pushed the boundaries of permanent habitation. 10. Pitcairn Island. Finally, travel thousands of miles across the Pacific to Pitcairn Island. This tiny volcanic island is one of the most isolated inhabited territories in the world. There are only a few dozen permanent residents. The island has no airport. Visitors must arrive by sea, and even that isn't simple because there is no large natural harbor. The terrain is steep and heavily covered with vegetation. The community is famously small and closely connected. Like Palmerston, Pitcairn has a remarkable history. Many of its residents are descendants of the famous HMS Bounty mutineers and their Polynesian companions. Today, the island is peaceful, but life remains extremely remote. There are limited shops, limited services, and no easy way to leave. For the people who live there, the isolation is simply part of everyday life.